Hey everybody, Agent of Doubt here, world's worst SJW. Ramble time. What's been on my mind recently is that a friend of mine who happens to be in prison, who happens to have never been a client of mine, if you're wondering, he told me that he got into a bit of an argument with another inmate. And the argument was about part of my friend's life story. And in prison, people tell each other their life stories. You know, it's what block did you grow up on? You know, how hard did you have it in life? What sort of credibility do you have? And part of his life story was that he grew up in a suburb of Chicago called Northbrook. And that's why he knew a lot about Chicago as a kid. And that's why he was a Cubs fan, rooting for the Bears during recent NFL games, a Bulls fan, you know. And so some other inmate said, wait a second, Northbrook is not in Chicago. I used to be a cab driver in Chicago, and Northbrook is definitely not even in Chicago. It's not even in Cook County. You're a liar. Now, this other inmate started to pester my friend at various times throughout the week with different things that would make his point that Northbrook was not part of Chicago. And this flustered my friend because your credibility is everything in prison. Your word is everything. And if someone, paints you as a liar, that could be actually a life or death situation. And so he was very upset that this person was hell-bent on proving to him and everybody else that Northbrook is not part of Chicago, and therefore he's a liar, and he needs to go to liar's hell and be beat up in prison by everybody who ever comes across him trying to get the street cred of having grown up near Chicago. Okay, so I started thinking about that and how lack of access to the internet, in fact, like a phone like this, that you could just look it up on and say, hey, actually, you're wrong. This is what Google says. That is part of the sentence of going to prison. You get sentenced to be around a bunch of people who may have less than average IQ, who may be very stubborn and not want to hear any facts from you because they consider their ability to remember things just on par with yours. And there's no arbiter of truth like Google in prison. Nobody has access to the internet unabated, So I just started thinking about all the other things that a prison sentence gives to people. That it's not really intended by the criminal justice system to add these things on as a punishment, but they are. The first one being that criminal background checks are so easy to do right now because of the internet that any company can run one very easily. So it's not just that a felon is going to be excluded from high security jobs or jobs that require a lot of trust be placed into the employees. they're going to be excluded from all sorts of jobs because the cost of a criminal background check is so low because of the internet. And that was not foreseen by the people who originally wrote the laws that are making people felons, and labeling them as felons, for life, not just, after, a certain amount of time you get to go back to your life. No, this is a label that follows you around now for life. And the rules that were written when they were didn't take into account how easily this would become just a class of people who cannot find a job to save their life. Secondly, it's just for a special type of crime for sex offenders. There's registries, right? And I'm all for the registries existing, but some people are on a sex offender registry for a certain amount of time for something like, urinating in public at a kid saw. A bunch of my homeless clients have been charged with that and been put on sex offender registries. And what happens is, once they get their shit together, get their life together, they've gotten off of the registry period, the period where they were supposed to be on a sex offender registry. And a foreign company, registered foreign at least, with a foreign server that is not reachable by U.S. law, decided to list them on their website after scouring all of the different databases from every state for all of its information. And so even if you are off the legal sex offender registry, you now have to be extorted by a whole bunch of foreign entities who now make it very searchable. Just put in your name, and all of a sudden, they say, hey, this guy's a sex offender. Check it on our registry. We saved the information, which is something that was not part of their sentence. Their sentence was to be on the registry a certain amount of time. And so that's another unfortunate modern pitfall we have with the internet being involved in our lives and technology moving faster, is that laws cannot catch up to the internet fast enough. And this makes any conviction of a crime like that far worse, because there are some people who it doesn't affect at all. They were going to be on the registry for life no matter what. But for those people who were only going to be on for a certain amount of time, they're now on forever too. Then there's, of course, the increased scrutiny in everyone's life when they're on probation or parole, that it can add charges to your sentence because you have somebody looking for you to be doing illegal things, specifically in your life, like checking your home and giving you drug screens, urinalysis, breathalyzers, and checking your home for all sorts of things like, somebody living there that shouldn't be, associating with other known criminals, where, sometimes you are required in some instances to go to classes where there are other, of course, offenders of the same ilk as you, because, those classes need to, be run efficiently, so they're group therapies instead of, individual things. So, of course, you meet people, and then you get told you can't meet with them outside of that place that you're told to meet them. And so sometimes when people, make friends that way, they, get told, now you're a little bit too friendly, so now you have to, be separate and not meet with that person other than when we tell you you can. And it's all sorts of weirdness like that. They'll even tell people who they can and cannot love while on probation or parole if that other person also has a felony conviction. So that's awesome. Because, when you get convicted, you lose a bit of your civil rights to, assemble with whoever it is that you want to assemble with. And you lose them for far longer than you may have thought you did when you got sentenced. And then I thought about how the convergence of all the mandates that people have to put up with can be very unsustainable. So if you get out of prison early and get into a halfway house in order to get a job and build up some money so that they don't just kick you out onto the street, you're not allowed to drive a car while you are living in the halfway house. It would be a horrible parking situation at the halfway house, for one. But also, they like to keep people, under their thumb and controllable, so they don't want them in cars. If you get found to be driving a car, you are in violation. You can be sent back to prison. So, they've got the no car rule, but you're required to have a job. And if you don't have a job, you get sent back to prison. You're required to drop a UA some days, which means you have to go out of your way to go to the UA testing center. Hopefully it's in the halfway house, but even when you go non-residential through the halfway house, you have to, still abide by some of the rules, like not driving, even though you're in your own apartment. And so then it's not the case that you do your UAs where you live. You do them at the testing center. So that's a part of your day that they're requiring you to, spend randomly. You wake up that day and find out, I have this other commitment that's going to take me, this much drive time out of my way that I have to wait to get the thing done and then drive time back to home or work. And then you have visits with your case manager or your PO, which that's another appointment that they put in there for you. You have visits with your therapist if you need one, which is mandated. Then there are visits with your psychiatrist, psychiatry, that are also mandated. Two separate things. To get your prescription drugs that they mandate that you go to if you've been evaluated to need some psychiatric drugs. And all of this you have to do using public transportation. God help you if you have any sort of Department of Human Services involvement where you have extra classes on top of that, or DUI classes, or domestic violence classes. All of those things eat into your schedule such that it'd be very hard for you to hold a job, especially as someone labeled a felon, with all of those different appointments that you have to go to. Who would want to keep you on their payroll if you're not reliably present for work? So all of those mandates, they kind of converge into one big unsustainable ball of soup that is your life. And at any moment, your case manager or your probation officer could glimpse you while you're on certain restrictions where you have to take out passes, and they can say, hey, use the app on your phone so I can see where you are, GPS style. And so you can't divert from the places that you said that you were going to go. And they'll also say, well, you can't kill two birds with one stone. You have to go out from the halfway house, do this one thing that you want to do, then come all the way back, touch home base at the halfway house, and then go out and do the other thing. You can't just go out, do two things, and come back. No. That would be too easy on your life. And so people are kind of set up for failure in that, which is not the way that the person who's initially doing the sentence, the judge, might think that that's what they're sentencing you to. They don't know that up front, because you even getting the opportunity to get into a halfway house is not actually part of their sentencing. That's part of the prison system deciding, you know what, we can let this many people go to this opportunity that might be good for the community and good for them. But that has nothing to do with the initial sentencing judge. It might be later judges that revisit, if your PO brings you back before the judge because you've been violating so many times. Like missing your UA appointments or using substances on paper. But lastly, for the people who are in prison, after society has gotten everyone addicted to instant encyclopedic information at your fingertips, now you have that removed from you. You're going into withdrawal, and you still have the mindset of somebody who has information readily available like that. You must now live with a bunch of people who were also previously addicted to that information, and they have below average intelligences, and they have no access to instant internet knowledge. So sprinkle in the fact that these dummies are so tribalistic in their cages that they're willing to maim or kill someone over their own paranoia about whether Northbrook, Illinois, is a suburb of Chicago or isn't. Which is easily Googleable on the outside, and would diffuse the situation. Sprinkle that in. It is, by the way. Northbrook is a suburb of Chicago. That's what Google said when I looked it up. Shit could get someone killed not being able to Google things.